Our reporter Chriselda Lewis has been monitoring this case for us. Let us now cross live to her. She's still in court. A very good afternoon to you, Chriselda. Thank you so much for coming through. So this case has been dragging from 2011, 2 years after Mdluli was appointed to head this crime intelligence. And this was before the charges were dropped by the NPA. So I suppose this is a victory for civil society groups that actually fought to have them reinstated.
Well, absolutely, Palisa. This particular case dragging on for close to 6 years. And those who have been calling for justice in this particular matter are hailing today as a victory, given that the former crime intelligence boss, Richard Mdluli, as well as Mthembeni Mthunzi, will be spending their first night in jail tonight. And of course, this is after that clip that you had played just moments ago, Palisa, when they were basically sentenced to 5 years in jail. Immediately, the defense then launched an application for leave to appeal both the sentence and the conviction and the sentence. So after those hearings were heard, the defense basically basing its application for leave to appeal on a very key witness who had taken the stand, one of the friends of Tshidi Buthelezi, who was Alice Manana, who basically testified about being assaulted, and had also basically said, that she holds no issues for Richard Mdluli, but the defense in this particular instance basically painting that particular witness as, someone who had issues with Richard Mdluli, as somebody who had married off Richard Mdluli's customary wife to somebody else, given the fact that she had known or was a close associate of the family itself. But that certainly didn't fly well with the presiding judge in this particular matter, who felt that another court would not come to a different conclusion. So the former crime intelligence boss, Richard Mdluli, and Mthembeni Mthunzi spending their first night in jail. And I can tell you that even though no one has yet been convicted for the death of Oupa Ramogibe, I can certainly tell you that his family is quite happy with the outcome of today, even though there is no particular conviction which relates to his particular death. They've always wanted to see Richard Mdluli pay for parts of this entire saga that has unfolded over the past couple of years. And what we do now know is that Richard Mdluli, speaking to the media just moments after that application was denied, basically told the media that this is not the end of the road. Let's take a listen.
I've said initially that I respect the law, and I do respect what the judge have done. But as I've indicated that I've got every right to go to any court. We'll petition the Supreme Court of Appeal, because we are aware that there are a lot of gaps which were supposed to have been dealt with, of which we've been failed in the court. So the only way to go further is to petition the Supreme Court of Appeal based on the facts and reasons which we have, because we are aware that we were not supposed to have been convicted and sentenced to prison.
And Palisa, just to bring you up to speed as well, in addition to part of the clip that you didn't manage to play there, Richard Mdluli basically says he is the victim in this instance. He says this is not the end of the road. He says he's now going to petition the Supreme Court of Appeal. And this is basically far from over. What I do understand is that we should be hearing in the next couple of hours what his lawyers plan to do next. But I do think that they would perhaps launch another a bid for bail, pending, of course, that petition to the Supreme Court of Appeal. But in this instance, I also asked Richard Mdluli whether he feels, given the feelings that Oupa Ramogibe's family have the harbour against him, does he feel that he needs to have a sit down with them and, change their minds about the way that they feel about him, given everything that has happened? He says he's the victim. He owes no one an explanation. And basically, people need to have a sit down with him instead. So what I guess the presiding judge in this matter described during the first day of the proceedings yesterday, where he basically said that Richard Mdluli was not remorseful, then I guess that would be demonstrated by what he had said this afternoon, in that Richard Mdluli feels he is the victim, he's owed an apology, these are trumped-up charges, and it's still a long road to go for him, but he says he does intend to clear his name. It's not over. He may be spending his first night in jail tonight. He's been trying for several years to clear his name, but with what has transpired in this court here this afternoon, he says it's a long road, but he's willing to walk it.
All right, so he says he's the victim in this particular case, Chriselda, and we know that he's expected back in court in November for a separate matter altogether on charges of fraud and corruption.
Well, that's right. Palisa, I think that's one of the sentiments that was quite clearly shared inside this court, in particular when the presiding judge said, not in his exact words, but implying that justice needed to be seen to be done. So in this particular instance, he had mentioned on at least one occasion that I can remember, where he said that these were just not ordinary police officers. Richard Mdluli is a former head of intelligence in South Africa, and the conduct at which he was supposed to carry himself with, he did not demonstrate in the manner in which he was supposed to. He basically said Mdluli as well as Mthunzi had abused state resources, that abused their power, and hence he found that the sentence that needed to be meted out against the both of them is something that needed to be seen to be fair in the eyes of the public. He had also went through quite a number of factors, including the circumstances of both Mdluli and Mthunzi, and saying basically that while he took into account a number of all of those issues, that had needed to balance with the constitutional duty that needed to be set. And in this particular instance, this is somebody that we're talking about who does have a checkered history. Indeed, the case that you refer to is still underway, and we know that Mr. Richard Mdluli has always maintained that these are nothing but trumped-up charges against him. So, indeed, someone with a checkered history, a checkered reputation, if I can, and still has another case to answer for in this particular instance. But certainly what I'm picking up from him is that he does seem to have quite a lot of fight in him, and he's determined to take it to the end.
So some already feel that today's sentencing is an important vindication of the rule of law in South Africa, Chriselda. What more response were you able to get regarding this matter?
From who we've managed to speak to, there certainly seems to be quite, relief in this particular instance, because I guess there are many in the corridors of the legal fraternity, I guess, who have whispered about this case having, dragged on for so long. In fact, one of the prosecutors who was in this particular matter had even retired. And, that's why I think in the last court appearance that we had, this particular presiding judge was quite adamant that this particular matter needed to reach some kind of finality. It had been dragging on for too long, and there had been accusations, on the part of the state, towards the defense, that they were trying to delay this particular matter. You remember in the last instance, when we had expected initially sentencing itself to be handed down, the defense had indicated they wanted to bring an epidemiologist. The defense had indicated they wanted to bring an epidemiologist. And remember that towards it, it kind of seemed like the defense was very much relying on the fact that Mr. Mdluli, is quite old and he would be at risk if he had to be incarcerated. Remember, initially, the defense was arguing for a non-custodial sentence, and then, of course, I beg your pardon, the state wanted a jail time, and the defense had basically wanting a non-custodial sentence. So in this particular issue, it certainly seems that those who have been watching this particular matter quite closely, and I must point out, one of the issues that I really picked up, Palisa, was that in the parts of the sentencing yesterday, the judge even alluded to the fact that nobody wanted to participate in this case. Number one, it had been poorly investigated. Number two, on the other aspects of, law enforcement, nobody wanted to touch this case. So there certainly seemed like there was a whole lot more that had been going on behind the scenes where, there were quite, according to what we've heard here inside court, quite a number of people who did not want to participate in this case, did not want to investigate this particular matter because Richard Mdluli, the former crime intelligence boss, was so big. That's what we heard. He was a big man who was being feared by many people. And, the Ramogibes, in this particular instance, even though they have not got answers yet to the death of Oupa Ramogibe, they say they don't care what sentence it is, whether it is unrelated to the death of Oupa Ramogibe. Any sentence that will see Richard Mdluli behind bars is a victory for them, and that is happening this evening.
All right, Chriselda, we thank you so much for keeping an eye for us on that particular case. SABC News reporter there, Chriselda Lewis, live from the South Gauteng High Court. Of course, the former crime intelligence boss Richard Mdluli and co-accused will spend their first night in jail today.